Hi, I'm Heather Hubbard. I went from being a lawyer and partner at one of the largest firms in America to becoming an online personality and successful entrepreneur. I know what it takes to rise to the top. I also know all too well the toll it can take on your health and personal life. So, how do you shine bright without burning out? How do you chase joy while achieving success? You're listening to the Hustle and Flow podcast. Welcome back to Hustle and Flow. I am your host, Heather Hubbard, and we are on episode 210. It is October, so I'm rocking my orange shirt with my orange hair, feeling, I know it's red hair, but isn't it orange? I don't know why they say red. I feel like all red hair is actually orange hair, but anywho, I'm feeling very autumn today, and I am super excited to share with you a special two-part series. I kept coming up with this list of things that I wanted to share, and then I tried to narrow it down. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to do 5. And I've been playing with this concept, working on this concept since like July or August. And I never could get it really narrowed down. And so finally I said, let's just do a 2-part series. Let's do a top 10. So we're at least going to get that in. These are the biggest mistakes that I see professionals turned entrepreneurs make. I made a lot of these mistakes. I've been in business now for 10 years. 10 years. I left my law firm. I believe it was October 24th, 2014, and officially started the business, I think, November 1. But it's been 10 years. So I've personally learned a lot. And I've also worked with so many different professionals, either in a service-based company that is providing the same service that they did in a professional firm, as well as true service-based entrepreneurs that are doing new and different things like speaking, coaching, consulting, courses, education, workshops, those kinds of things. So I've also watched other people do really well and other people really flounder. And so I've been able to really come up with and see and witness what it is that really blocks people, what stops them from creating and building a successful business. So I'm really excited to share those with you today. But first, before we get into those, I'm so excited to share with you the Get It Done Challenge is coming back. You heard it first. Okay. So in the survey that many of you completed for me, was that back in August, September? I don't even remember. Several of you shared that you wanted the Get It Done Challenge to come back, that you loved the productivity tips, just how to plan for your days, how to get things done. So it's coming back. Although this time it's going to be a little bit different. So we used to have some Get It Done challenges in the spring, which was all about like spring cleaning your to-do list. And this year we are doing it November 11th through the 15th, which will be after the election. Go Harris Walls. And then after that, we're going into the holidays. We always are so busy at that time of year because we are trying to wrap up. A lot of people try to end business early or take longer holiday vacations. We're trying to meet year-end numbers, year-end goals, especially if you own a business or you are in a professional service firm that has goals, whether it's hours or revenue numbers. You're trying to collect money before the year ends. It can be stressful. You're trying to get the work done and you're trying to plan for all of these, trips and amazing magical moments for the holidays. And it can be overwhelming. So what we're going to do is we are going to work on prioritizing what all has to get done, what we want to get done, and how to do it in a joyful and easeful way. Because if we're overwhelmed and everything is chaotic, that really defeats the entire purpose of year-end joy. That's what the Get It Done Challenge is going to be all about. It is not quite ready for you to register, but if you go ahead and subscribe to the newsletter, heatherjoyhubbard.com/subscribe, you will be the first to know when it is back so that you can register. But go ahead and mark your calendar. Go ahead and mark your calendar. We will have a very short podcast episode every single day, Monday through Friday. And if you participated before, you know how this works. If you're new to it, welcome. And then in probably the afternoon, we will have a short live. It'll be YouTube this year, not Facebook, a short live where you can interact. And as always, there's going to be a lot of fun prizes involved. So that is first. Second, guess what else is coming back? Our live workshop where we plan for the next year. There were amazing years where we did this live and in person in Phoenix and Miami. This will be virtual. We've done them virtual in the past. We had a different version. We did the after party in January of 2021 when COVID, ruined our plans to meet in San Diego to do it. And then I also did it. I don't remember what year. It might have been 2018. We did a virtual option as well. So this one's going to be the same and different. So it's going to be the same in the sense that if you ever participated in those, you know that it is very methodical, it is systematic. And if you ever struggle with planning or put too much on your plate or you don't know how to prioritize, we will go through a very specific method to make sure that you are set up for success, but you're also doing it in a way that is going to feel satisfying, and it is not going to burn you out. It is not going to overwhelm you, and you're going to feel really, really good about the process, not just the results. So that is going to be December 5th, and it's way cheaper than you could ever do when you showed up live. The tickets for that will be $97. And then there's going to be a VIP option for those of you who own businesses. So that will be December 5th and 6th. And so the 5th is all about just the high level planning. So if you are in corporate or you just want to focus on personal things, December 5th, we are going to get you all set up and ready to go. December 6th, some old, but some new, very specific programming to help you plan for 2025 if you are a business owner or you are a service-based professional in a firm where you are required to develop and bring in your own business. So December 5th and 6th, go ahead and put that on your calendar. The VIP is only $297. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to get you set up. Again, not ready for you to purchase, but I wanted to go ahead and tell you now, because I know y'all are planners and it starts to get chaotic. Go ahead and put those dates in your calendar so that you don't miss out. Okay, who is ready for the top 10 mistakes that I see professionals turned entrepreneurs make? I can't hear you, but I'm assuming you are ready to dig in. So we are going to start with number 1. And that is treating your business like an extension of yourself personally, as opposed to a true business. What do I mean by that? Well, when you have a business, there is a CEO. And when you have a business, if you're in a service-based business, there are the providers. There are those who actually deliver the services. And most people that I know who are professionals, who are an expert in what they do, and that is, right, in many ways what they're establishing when they create their business, they really think of it in terms of me, myself, and I. Because in many ways, you are the brand. You absolutely are the brand. People are buying your expertise and your services. And yet, you are not a freelancer. You are not a contractor. You are a business. And so when you are a business, you need to have a CEO. And those are two totally different roles and two totally different hats. Because it is yours and you are not working for someone else, suddenly there are so many emotions wrapped up in that. It's hard to be objective. And the biggest mistake that I see people make is they really don't stop to step away from that service, expertise, personality, and think from a very objective perspective. If you were the CEO of a company that, like, it was not yours, right? You were hired, you were an employee to be the CEO of a company. You're going to make very different decisions for that business and that company because you don't have the same emotional attachment. When you are the CEO of your brand, of your expertise and your service, you just get so close to it that you stop being objective and you stop thinking of it from the business perspective. CEOs have to make hard decisions every day. CEOs make decisions that not everyone agrees with. Being a CEO is a hard job. You're going to get a lot of criticism. You really have to be resilient. You have to be tough, and you have to be willing to make those hard decisions. It doesn't mean that you can't be empathetic and compassionate, but you do have to make those hard decisions. And a lot of times, professionals turned entrepreneurs don't want to make those hard decisions. And so all of the lines start to get blurred. So if you are thinking of starting a business, or you have started a business, or you are 10 years into your business, my question for you is, do you have time set aside to truly be wearing that CEO hat and looking at it as well as you can from the perspective of what a hired CEO would be doing and thinking, and not just you personally? Because that CEO is going to make better business decisions. They just are. And so that is number one. It is not an extension of you personally. It is a business. And so you got to think of it from that perspective. Okay. Number two, the biggest mistake that I see people make is and I did this, is they focus on their revenue and not their profit. So I actually have in a few weeks, Parker Stevenson of Evolve Finance, he's going to come on here and he is going to be sharing a lot about financial literacy and how to grow a financially healthy business. And so we'll talk about some of these things. So when we start a business, it is really easy to assume that we're going to make a lot of money. And it is easy to assume that we are going to pay ourselves this big salary. Oftentimes, when we are starting a business, especially if it is not just an extension of what you've already been doing. So if you've been a law firm partner and you've been bringing in your own business, and then you're going to go start your own firm and bring those clients with you, that's a little bit different because you can set the expectations of what you need to do and the revenue and the profitability, all of that. It's going to be different because you're in charge of the expenses and the hiring and firing in a way that you probably weren't before. But that's very, very different than starting a brand new business where you don't actually have the track record, even if you know you're really, really good at what you do and you're going to have a great offer. And so there can be this push and pull when you first start out where you're like, I'm going to invest in the business. I'm going to keep reinvesting to make sure that it's really successful. And that's going to make a lot of money. That's going to allow me to have a great profit at the end of the year. But that generally just doesn't happen on its own. You have to focus on that because there is often, I think, an assumption. So when professionals hear these other entrepreneurs say, oh, the business made $1 million, and you're like, oh, well, then I'm making $1 million. Not necessarily. When you start to look at the expenses and everything related to that, what you bring home, and by the way, the profitability of the business does not necessarily equate to just your salary or your take home, because generally with that profit, you are going to do things for the business itself. So it's getting a little bit into the weeds, but it can be really, really easy to focus on the more money I make in the business, the more money I'm going to take home. And that's not necessarily true. And this goes a little bit back to that CEO hat. When you put together your offers, are you thinking about profitability, like what you're going to be able to take home? Let's say you start out and you're like, I'm going to offer all of these different services or these different offers or these different programs. And if they make this much, then this is also what I think my expenses will be, without stopping to say, well, what's the profitability of each and every service? So what are the hard costs related to each program that you're offering? If you have to have facilitators or other coaches or other consultants or independent contractors in order to deliver on that service, that is a hard cost. If you have to print materials or have workbooks, if you have to build out a program and buy software licenses related to delivering that particular, service or offer, that is a hard cost. If you're accepting credit cards, the fee that you are charged, that you have to pay, the processing company, that is a hard cost. And so getting really transparent on that. Then at the end of the day, you're going to have your overhead. So that's the thing that applies regardless of what service or offer you are providing. So you got your overhead. And then again, for each offer, what is the hard cost? Well, when you actually run those numbers, some programs are going to be a lot more profitable than others. It also helps you figure out what you need to be charging to, again, be profitable with each offer, but then to be able to pay yourself well, to reinvest in the company, and to pay other people well. And so that needs to become, in many ways, a line item in your business. And so when you start a business, there's not predictability, and cash flow is a real thing. So oftentimes you have to have a lower line item than you want at the end of the year, right? So each month, like you've got a set amount you're paying yourself. But at the end of the year, you're hoping there's going to be enough profitability to pay the taxes, to pay your extra bonuses or salary in order to get you where you wanted to go. And so, really thinking through those aspects and not just the revenue number, not just, I want to make 100,000 this year. Well, if you make 100,000, what are you bringing home? If anything, what is the business profiting, if anything? And I made this mistake. I actually was focused on the revenue for each column, but I did not do the making sure that I was paying myself and really building into that the profitability piece such that not only could I pay myself well, but that there could be buffer in order to reinvest in the company, because I just reinvested. And I think if I was really more focused on profit and not revenue, that would have helped me. And I also see a lot of new entrepreneurs start out and not pay themselves well or price things appropriately because they are focused on revenue and not profit. So that is number two. All right. Number three. Number three is not asking for the sell. Number three is not asking for business. Here's the thing, and this is related to number one. If you are truly going to start a business, you're not a freelancer, you're not a contractor, you are a business. If you are not putting something out there for sale and regularly and consistently marketing and selling it, you have no business being in business. And that may sound harsh, but you are going to feel so defeated. You are going to feel as though you are failing. You are going to feel as, what is wrong with me? Why is my business not growing? If you have and are not willing to work through the anxiety or whatever mindset issues you have around selling what it is that you offer, you're really going to struggle in the business itself. And I say that because I see so many people start businesses and then it doesn't go well and they have to go back and get a corporate job or do other things on the side. And it didn't mean that you were a failure. It could just mean you actually aren't cut out for business or for being an entrepreneur. And that is not a criticism. That is not a bad thing. We are not all born to be entrepreneurs, because like my husband, he is not born to be an entrepreneur. He could be such a good business owner. And I have encouraged him to start his own business since, we were married and we've been married 20 plus years. He is not built for being a business owner. He doesn't want the risk. He doesn't want the responsibility. He doesn't want to sell. Right. And so for you, if you don't want to market and sell and ask for the sell and proactively put yourself out there, because a CEO would fire you. A CEO would fire you if you were not right. If you're in a sales position and you're not selling, the CEO is going to fire you. So especially when you're a solopreneur and you start out just as yourself, right? So you are the CEO and you are the salesperson and you are the service provider. It's where I think a lot of professionals don't realize you're going to have to do all those different things. And you have to be able to really give each one of those areas your all, so that hopefully you can hire those other positions. If you have the money to hire to begin with and can find great people, Wonderful. But most of the people that I meet and myself, like that's not what we did. It was just me, myself, and I. And so I had to fill each of those roles. If you were like, I absolutely never want to be a salesperson, I actually highly encourage you to consider other alternatives. Maybe you want to be a freelancer. Maybe you want to be an independent contractor. Maybe you actually would be better off being an employee. Even if, there's not a lot of great companies out there, go find a company where you can fit in. Because if you're not willing to make the ask, if you are not willing to make the sell, and I'm going to add this on because I got a few clients who are going to totally be like, why are you poking me? But you know why? If you're not willing to send out your bills and your invoices and collect the money you are owed, you are not in business. You are not in business. You are not being an entrepreneur. Make sure that you are ready, willing, and able to do the things necessary to overcome any mindset issues. Because here's the thing, you don't have to be great at those positions when you start out, but you have to be willing to get serious about working through any mindset issues you have and working on the skills to develop what you need to be able to market and sell and ask for the business and promote your business to truly be an entrepreneur. I say this with love. Do not create something that you are going to feel miserable at and feel like you failed at, because you are not a failure. You might just not be an entrepreneur. Number four, not investing or investing in the wrong things. So this tends to go like to the extreme, one way or the other. I don't often see it in the middle. Some people don't invest at all. Like they just are like shoestring budget. And I get it, right? Sometimes you don't have the money to actually start with, in which case I might encourage you to actually do some saving on the side before you start the company. A business is going to need some money to get started. And so being willing to invest in that business is really important because you need money to grow. That's just the reality, right? Sweat equity is a real thing. But if you want to fuel that, right? Like if you want to fuel the flame, you got to put money in the company. If you're so focused on paying yourself, right? So let's say that you're like, I'm going to pay myself $10,000 a month, every month, starting this business before you really kind of know it's set up. And you're not making that much revenue. So you're selling, you're paying yourself first, and there's not much left at all to actually have the systems you need or to have the assistant you need or things like that. You're going to really struggle to ever take off, because you are going to need to invest in some systems and some tools and some software, depending on what you're doing. Like you might even be in an office, right? So you got your office rent. You might have hard costs related to copiers. Again, it totally depends on what your service-based business is, but there are costs associated with that. There are also costs related to really setting yourself up for success. So if you are great at what you do, right? You're an expert, but you're not a good CEO. You're not a good strategist. You're not good at marketing and sales. You're either going to need to invest in people that can do that job, which is going to be really expensive, or you're going to have to invest your own money in developing those skills to get good at it yourself. Really being aware of the investments that are going to be needed. And I'm not saying you got to like go spend a ton of money, right? But I do see a lot of people who are just like, I'm not going to spend money until the business makes money. And that's not really how that works. Your business will likely be small for a really, really long time, or never get to the place that you want it to be, thus leaving cash on the table and not paying yourself as much as you could because you're not investing. Now, the flip side to this, and I frankly see this more than the other, I see people investing too much in the wrong things. So I see a lot of entrepreneurs when they start out, because it is like a whole new world. When you are a professional, you know your profession, you know your expertise. And so then you come over here and you're like, oh my gosh, I got to be the CEO, and I got to market, and I got to sell, and I don't know how to do it. So I'm going to invest in all the things. I'm going to invest in having an online course. I'm going to invest in learning how to do a membership. I'm going to invest in learning how to be a speaker. I'm going to invest in learning how to write a book. I'm going to invest in learning how to have a blog. I'm going to invest in learning how to have a YouTube channel. Like because let me tell you, there are some really, really good marketers out there, and there are people who offer amazing services. Like they're so good at what they do. And there can be this belief of, oh, that's the thing. That's the thing that's going to fix it all. If I buy this, then that it's all going to fall into place. And again, a lot of the marketing will tell you it's going to solve all your problems when that was probably never your problem. So it's like, well, you're investing money in a problem that was not the problem. Therefore, it ends up not being a solution. Being really, really clear. And this again goes back to that CEO hat of what do you actually need to grow your business? Do you have a business plan? Do you have a solid business plan? Do you know what you are offering? Do you know your brand? Do you know how you're marketing it? Do you know how you're selling it? Do you know how you're going to get your clients and serve your clients? Those are the basics. If you don't have that down, you don't need to be investing in specialized things. You don't need to be investing in learning how to do an email list, right? You need the core set first. I've also seen people who are not ready for high level group coaching. I have seen people not ready for masterminds invest a lot of money in really expensive programs when they're not ready for it. And so they struggle. They feel a bit behind. They see all these people doing all these things and they're asking questions. And they're like, why can't I do this? Why can't I fit it together? Why can't I, you know, like they feel like they're drinking out of a water hose and they're just really behind. And that's because they jumped ahead. And I see professionals do this because we are really smart. We are really, really smart. We are very intelligent and we got some egos, right? We do. I do. We have egos. And so when you were like really, really good in your professional career, your corporate career, and you're like, but I'm not just starting out from scratch, right? Like, I mean, it's a new business, but like, I'm not a baby. And maybe it's like you were making a lot of money. So maybe it's like, I make 200 or 250,000 a year, or the business that I had over here that I was managing, like it was $1 million. And so then you come into this coaching, consulting, speaking world, and you're like, seeing all the things offered, and you're like, well, I'm not a newbie, right? And so it's like, well, I'm going to try to get into these other programs because they're going to be more on my level. When the truth is, you're not ready. You're not actually at their level yet. And it's not because you're not good. And it's not because you're not an expert, but you don't yet have the foundational skills to leverage it. And masterminds are really intended for people who already have the base or the vision and are just looking to take it to the next level. And I've had this happen where I had people join my masterminds, and what they thought they were going to get was like really detailed one-on-one coaching or group coaching, when that's not what a mastermind is. And I've since realized it took me a while to actually see what was happening with that. But in the masterminds I've participated in, like going back all the way to like 2016, 2017 to today, as well as people who have been my masterminds, I finally realized, oh, people aren't really qualified for these. And I don't think that it's like the people accepting you in, like trying to manipulate you. Like when I let people come in to my program, they were saying the right things. And I don't think they were trying to manipulate me either, but we were miscommunicating. So like the mastermind I have now is a little bit different because it actually includes core programs to make sure that you really do have your offers set up. But a lot don't. And so when you're investing, make sure you're investing in the right way. Make sure that you are not just blowing money on things you don't need. Similarly, I see so many, well, actually, this goes to the next one. It's focusing on the wrong things. All right. So we were talking about investing in the wrong things. This is now focusing on the wrong things. And it does kind of go together. So I'm going to start with the focusing on the wrong things, and then we'll tie them. A lot of people, when they start out, they want to have their website fully done before they announce to the world that they're in business. You don't need a website to be in business. And the problem is when you do a website, without really having your strategy in place and without having started testing to see, is this going to sell? Do I have the right messaging? A website can be expensive. So when you start investing heavily in, your website and your branding, right? You get your colors and you get your logo and you get all the things and your business cards. You just put a lot of money out there that is not necessarily going to give you a return on investment because maybe you've actually not had a client. Your services and offers may not actually be what people need. You may not have your client nailed down enough. You may not have your messaging dialed in. You're hiring a copywriter to help you with your messaging, but you don't even yet know what your messaging is. Like, you don't know what your branding is. And I talked about this a little bit with the branding audit. That was episode 205, Audit Your Business Strategy. If you've not listened to that, go listen to it. It comes with a worksheet where you can score yourself and audit yourself on this. But I talked about this a little bit on episode 205. If you start investing in all of these things when you don't have a clear strategy in place, it likely is not going to connect with people. And you may end up having to change it because you got to pivot, right? And that's where we can just get really bogged down with things that we think professionally are important to owning a business, when the most important part of owning a business is having clients, serving clients. And you can absolutely get clients and serve clients without a website and without a business card and without all the shiny things. That is a form of focusing on the wrong thing when you start your business. And potentially, this goes back to the last one, potentially investing money in things in the wrong order or spending too much money up front. If you spend $20,000 on a website and branding when you could have spent that money in other places that made more sense for you, then you're going to really struggle, because then you're playing catch up. And you're less likely to then change the website and things in the way they need to be done, because you're like, well, I already paid for that. I don't want to do it again, which is only going to, hold you back and slow you down. So that is 1 through 5. Those are the top 5 things. I've got 6 through 10. You're going to have to come back and listen next week. But I will tell you, if you don't have your foundations in place and you need someone to help you get it all set up so that you can then go invest wisely, I highly encourage you to go check out Growth Accelerator. Whether you are just starting out or you've been maybe in business for a while, but you're just not where you want to be, it's really important to get to those basics. And it's not just a training program, it's actual group coaching live, working together. That is good for a lot of people. Right now, I'm working with several professionals who are still experts and professionals in their businesses, but they are starting other businesses on the side. And it's been so much fun to watch them really dig down, get it set up. And then when you graduate, there's an opportunity to move to a program that I don't promote it publicly, because you got to be invited after you get promoted through that program. But I love giving them homework each and every week and watching them go do the right things in the right order and them see results way faster than they even expected. So if you need those foundations, definitely go check out Growth Accelerator, heatherjoyhubbard.com/Growth Accelerator. The next cohort starts in January. There are only 8 spots and a few have already been sold. So you can go check that out. Don't forget to come back next week for number 6 through 10. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, give the episode a like and leave a comment below so we can keep the conversation going. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss a future episode or announcement. Listening on Apple, Spotify, or another podcast app, you can watch the video and join in the after show conversation by visiting hustleandflowpodcast.com.